Time for our fourth story, which is called Mr. Men, The Great British Tour. Written by Roger Hargreaves, pictures by Adam Hargreaves. Miss Sunshine loved going on holiday. She liked nothing more than visiting new places with her friends, so she bought a double-decker bus to do her very own guided tour of Great Britain. Sunshine Tours. Miss Sunshine had bought everyone on the umbrella for the trip. It often rains in Britain, she laughed. Mr. Roy looked at Miss Sunshine. Bus. But your bus doesn't have a roof, he cried. I know, smiled Miss Sunshine. All aboard. Hold on a minute. There we are. There were some ads on here. Anyway, the Great British Tour was from Land's End in the most western corner of England to John O'Groats at the very top of Scotland. The first stop on the tour was at the Eden Project in Cornwall. In a huge dome, they trekked around a steamy rainforest and discovered how the plants were there to keep us all alive. Mr. Greedy discovered how many cream teas he could eat. Then they took back on the bus to travel to Wiltshire, where Miss Sunshine showed them the Stonehenge, one of the wonders of the world and the most famous prehistoric monument in the whole of Britain. Mr. Rory stayed on the bus, just in case it rained. Nobody knows how Neolithic man moved these enormous stones to build the circle, said Miss Sunshine. I think Mr. Strong may have an idea, giggled Miss Giggles. The next day, Miss Sunshine's tour took them across the south of England to Dover. Mr. Rory was rather concerned when he saw the hot air balloons, which were going to take them over the White Cliffs. It's amazing, we're flying like a bird, cried Miss Giggles. I can even see France from up here. Luckily for Mr. Rory, he was in Mr. Greedy's balloon, which could not get them off the ground. Too many cream teas. There were more tea at their next stop. Mr. Uppity had organised with the Queen at Windsor Castle. Miss Splendid was very jealous when the Queen greeted Miss Princess like an old friend, and Mr. Rory was very scared of the corgis. But things only went from bad to worse. Miss Stubborn refused to curtsy in front of the Queen. Mr. Clumsy spilt his tea on the rug, and of course Mr. Greedy ate all the biscuits. Mr. Uppity was very embarrassed. He wanted to be invited back. After a stressful day at the castle, they decided to take things a bit slower and swap the bus for a barge along the Birmingham canals. Did you know that Birmingham has more canals than Venice? Asked Miss Sunshine. Hop aboard, everyone. Mr. Rory decided to stay on the bus again. He was worried that he might fall off the barge. And of course, Mr. Bump did fall in the canal, and Mr. Clumsy, and Miss Whoops. Splash. Oh, hold on. There we are. There were some more ads on here. Once they had all dried off, they climbed back on board Miss Sunshine's tour bus. Next stop, Wales, cried Miss Sunshine. Did someone say Wales? Asked Mr. Rory nervously, looking over his shoulder. But Mr. Rory had no need to worry, as they travelled out of England to Carnarvon Castle at Wales, where they watched an entertaining jousting competition. Mr. Topsy-Turvy was not going to win any prizes. It was a flying visit to Wales, as that night they camped in Sherwood Forest under the stars. It was Mr. Strong's idea that they dressed up as Robin Hood and his merry band of outlaws. Mr. Mean had a very good Sheriff of Nottingham, and Miss Somersault was an excellent shot with a bow and arrow, and Mr. Dizzy was not so bad. Not so much a bow and arrow as an arrow and bow. The next stop on Miss Sunshine's tour was Northern Ireland. They were up bright and early to board a ferry and sail across the Irish Sea. Mr. Tall wanted to see the giant causeway. Legend has it had long ago two giants loathed each other. Fionn, an Irish giant, built a path over the sea to reach a Scottish giant, Benadomna, but he ripped it up in a rage and the giant's causeway was made. However, explained Miss Sunshine, the causeway was really created by a volcano. 60 million years ago. Mr. Worry was not sure which version worried him more, two giants or a volcano. The following morning, they were back on the ferry to England for a relaxing day on Blackpool Beach with fish and chips for lunch. Mr. Busy was too busy to stop for lunch. He was too busy making a castle. It was nearly as tall as Blackpool Tower, which everyone climbed after lunch. Well, not everyone. One person stayed on the ground, and I'm sure you know who that was. Hold on. Whales, giants, volcanoes, heights. What next? Wondered Mr. Worry. Well, next was sailing on the Coniston water in the Lake District. They had hired a boat, but they had no wind. Mr. Worry's relief was short-lived as Mr. Strong had lot a puff. He took a very deep breath and he huffed and he puffed and he puffed and he huffed all the way round the lake. Mr. Worry kept a close lookout for whales. Miss Sunshine's tour was now nearing its end, but it's not before they travelled even further. North through England up to Scotland. On their way, they passed the Angel of the North, which was 4 times taller than their double-decker bus.